All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So in this one, I wanted to ask the question, what are the expectations for the New York Jets this upcoming season, right? I feel like it's all over the map. You know, you'll talk to one group of fans and they're saying one thing. A different subset of fans is saying the exact opposite. You have the Vegas odds coming into play, which we'll talk about. We have kind of the national media perspective. It seems like, you almost get like a different opinion from anybody that talks Jets. Someone is thinking very, very highly of them, and then someone's thinking, okay, this is a bottom three team. Like it's all over the place, all over the place. So I think, if you just start going down the list of questions, is this team a rebuilding team? Right? They're coming off a 5-win season. They have a brand new general manager, a brand new head coach, new schemes, new coaching staff completely outside of Sean Jefferson at wide receiver coach, a brand new quarterback. We've added some new pieces. This kind of feels like the typical rebuild situation that a 5-win team would find themselves in. But you're looking at the Jets roster and it's like there are stars here. Quinnen Williams, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, right? There's some big name players. Quincy Williams, all pro. There's some big name players here, which is something that like the quote unquote rebuilding teams don't particularly have. Right, every team has good players, but when you're talking about top end talent, in their prime, by the way, still on their rookie deals, like it's kind of a weird situation. Typically, you just don't really see that. So if you don't necessarily agree with the notion of a rebuilding football team, you could maybe look at the team as more so, hey, this isn't a rebuild, it's a reload. Things weren't going well with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and, God, take your pick, Nathaniel Hackett and whatnot, the offensive staff. But it's still the same young core. AVT, again, Breece Hall, Gardner, the running backs, Olu, Michael Carter, Joe Tippmann. Like, the core was the same. The core is the exact same from last year to this year, but let's just keep what was working and swap out what wasn't working. Again, the coaches, the quarterback, things like that, right? Eliminating distractions. Again, because we have a lot of that top end talent, maybe the Jets could be like Washington, right? Or San Francisco, a couple years ago, where it's like, okay, Washington is the second overall or had the second overall pick in the draft. If you would have asked the question, hey, is Washington going to be in the NFC Championship game? Most people would probably look at you like you're crazy. But that's exactly what happened. I'm not saying that the Jets are going to make the championship game, but could we have a similar style of effect where, you're having this crappy season, you're having all these distractions and losses. It's kind of like a rubber band effect. And you get to the end of the season, you make all these changes, and now all of a sudden you have this flip where the culture is changed, the coaching is changed, the quarterback is changed. All of this new positivity, you kind of have this, wave of positive momentum flinging you forward. San Francisco 49ers, again, a couple years ago, what was that, 2018 to 2019, they kind of had a similar type of, feeling. Like, guys got healthy, they addressed positions of need, and all of a sudden they're this, team that's just rolling. And I think a large part in the reason why was because that team like silently had a lot of good players on the roster. And then, of course, we take a look at the Vegas odds, and, we have to look at it from the standpoint of no one wants to lose money. So the Vegas odds right now, total wins on the season over under 5.5 for the Jets. Obviously, that's not great. We're coming off a season with 5 wins, but that's what the number is. For me, if I had to take a guess on how this season is going to pan out, and we haven't, we don't know what the schedule is looking like. We know who we're playing, which is great, but we don't know in the order, and the order is very, very, very important. How many primetime games, how many what could we be in a situation where, in the month of December and the first week of January, we have one home game, like situations like that. Remember last season to start the year, what was it? 3 games in 10 days or 3 games in 12 days or something crazy. You never know how the schedule is going to pan out, and that's going to obviously be a big determining factor. But if I just have to take a guess in the early section of May here, I'm going to assume that things maybe start off a little rocky. Right, a little rocky early on with just the new schemes and guys trying to get accustomed to everything. Then you throw on top of it maybe the rookie mistakes made from the coaching staff. There's going to look, Aaron Glenn has never been a head coach before. Tanner Ingstrand, OC at the NFL level. There's going to be mistakes along the way, right? Maybe a missed challenge, maybe a wasted timeout, maybe a botched 2-minute situation, just situations like that. Maybe an inopportune penalty or something. But my hope is that as the season goes on, those mistakes start to clear themselves up. And they're reviewing their error, right? Aaron Glenn and Tanner Ingstrand and Steve Wilkes, they're reviewing their errors. And as the weeks move forward, the things start to get cleaned up. They start all of a sudden not shooting themselves in the foot. One of my biggest problems, I would probably say one of my top 2-3 issues with the whole Saleh-led regime, we were seeing rookie mistakes in year 4. Rookie mistakes in year 4. It just never felt like there was that evolution within the building, from a coaching staff perspective, from a front office perspective. Things can change on the field, but from that coaching standpoint, like, was the game planning better in year 3 and in year 4 compared to year 1? I mean, you could argue it got worse. Was the in-game adjustments better? Did it ever take a substantial leap? Was the clock management ever reviewed, and did that ever really get improved upon? Nothing really stands out for me personally. You just never felt like there was that growth there, which is pretty frustrating, right? To kind of look back in hindsight and say, man, year 1 Saleh and year 4 Saleh, you never really kind of felt like there was a big difference there. At least that's just, my personal opinion. But one thing that we did see from the Detroit Lions, I'm assuming that this team is going to look a lot how the Lions did early in their process. Why? Because it's Lions coaches on both sides of the football. It's a team that wants to build through the draft. It's a team that's going to be running schemes similar to the Detroit Lions, again, on both offense and defense here. But even when those Lions teams were losing, it's like no one really lost faith in Dan Campbell, because these games were close. They were taking some of the best teams in football. Like you would look at the slate, right, entering Sunday, and you're like, okay, the winless Lions, the 2-win Lions are playing this great team that's, has Super Bowl aspirations. And that game is coming down to a 2-minute drive. Like, the other team has to, go on this miraculous drive to beat the Lions. I think that's what really gave Detroit fans a lot of hope, right, in those years, where it's kind of more so a question of talent on the field, not so much the coaching. It's like, okay, we know these guys can game plan well. We know that they can get these guys motivated and ready to play. The team's playing with a lot of physicality and aggression. They seem like they're on top of it. It's just we lack the overall talent. We just need some positional upgrades. And then once we get those, the team is going to start rolling. And we're really going to see wins start to stack up. Now, Detroit started like from the absolute bottom in the, taking over from Matt Patricia and whatnot. Now they're at the, almost right up at the top. Very, very, very good team. So well coached. They have so much talent there. But it wasn't this overnight process. It took a while. So just my guess. That's my kind of assumption on how this first year under Aaron Glenn might go, right? Team's playing hard, team is physical, they're fighting tooth and nail. Maybe there's some rookie mistakes early on, maybe we're losing some games early on, but I'm hoping towards the back end of the season, it's like, okay, all of a sudden we're starting to put things together. It's starting to look more so like a functioning team, and we're starting to iron out the kinks. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section on this. Are you one of those fans that is, maybe, okay, we're probably going to finish with the top 3 pick? Are you in that boat of, hey, let's just improve upon last year, 6, 7, 8 wins, maybe in that kind of range, showing some positive growth, but at the same time, still not that perfect team and probably going to have some rookie mistakes? Or are you thinking major Washington Commanders style leap forward, where it's like, hey, this roster actually has some top end talent? If we assume that the coaching is just better from Keith Carter, from Nathaniel Hackett, from Todd Downing, from Jeff Ulbrich, Saleh, all these guys, could this team just kind of have that slingshot effect upwards? So, yeah, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you guys, and as always, go Jets.